All right. Welcome, everybody. Go
Hello, hello,
through,
hello.
say hello to everybody. We got 351 Cleveland in the house, Austin, Eddie Gross, Mike Sampson, Avid, Big Mike, Mario Sanchez, Stonefly, Two Stands, Hey Stan,
Standing man.
KY Crazy Crappie Cat Angler,
Stonefly 71.
Chris, yep, Chris with Hooks and Hammock, uh, Sean Abney popped in. Welcome, guys. Uh, there's Skip.
Skip Stewart. What's
Clearview
up, buddy?
Outdoors. Yep. Uh, I loved watching y'all guys on the river. Not just Skip, but Zach Murray. I know you fished a lot with them at times, and
Yeah.
man, it's highly entertaining. It's fun to watch. Y'all guys, even if you're not catching fish, y'all guys are having fun on that boat, and
Oh,
that's
yeah.
what it's about. I mean, y'all have a great time, and I know you may not think it, but for us on the outside watching it live, it's a lot of fun to watch when you see guys that are just fishing buddies out there having a good time, and it's really entertaining. There's Miss D. Miss D made it in.
I appreciate that. We're definitely having fun.
Yeah. Mike Irvin, welcome, guys. I'm going to give it a minute, let some people pop in. And there's Eric
Absolutely.
Burnside. I love watching you and Janice. Janice is the one I get so tickled about because there's Kevin and Christopher Comer. She is so serious about the fishing. She's not worried about eating. She's not worried about nothing. She is catching fish. That's what she is. Don't block the rods. Don't get in her way. You know,
Yes, right.
I remember one live y'all were out there and you made Philly cheesesteaks on the grill,
Yeah.
and you were trying to get her to eat. There's Janice speaking of the devil, and she's like, "I don't have time to eat." And it's great to watch. See, Kelly Bullock made it in. Janice popped in. Brandon, Catfishing Dreams. Mark with Catfishing Crappie. Welcome, guys. Thanks, everyone, for stopping in. Well,
Yeah, she don't
first
play
of
around.
all,
She'll knock me out of the boat if she has to.
yeah, I love watching it, and she's so excited. And, the last live with you and Janice, y'all were out there and ended up catching a crappie, a nice crappie, on a
Yeah.
piece of chicken.
Can't fake it.
I was, you know, see Mad Catter made it in, Skin and Scales. Welcome everybody. That's not something I've ever seen. That was the first time I've ever seen that on a live video, catching them on chicken. And it wasn't a small crappie. It was a nice
No,
crappie.
it was.
It
We
blew
didn't
my
measure
mind.
it. I had a measuring board there, and I didn't even think to measure it. We were just shocked, and wanted to get it back to the water. But yeah, and you guys saw it. The bait was in its mouth. He ate the chicken.
Yep. Maurice Kaysen made it, and LG Bass. Welcome, guys. Yeah, it kind of floored me. It threw me for a loop because I have fished many years, and I have never seen that before. So, you're never too old to learn something, guys.
I don't know if I would target crappie with chicken, but the chicken, and that was anise flavored chicken, and on that reservoir, I've caught flatheads. Janice just caught a 42-pound flathead a couple trips ago up there on chicken in the mouth, and it ain't our first flathead we've caught dragging chicken. It's kind of crazy.
Yep.
I don't know why it works.
Welcome, Hannes.
But it works.
Yeah, and I'm not sure either. There's something in it. I have yet to catch one on the chicken down here, but I tried it in the winters, during the fall and winter, and I know Norm was like, man, it's better during the warmer water, during the warmer temperatures.
Yeah.
So, I You
And
cannot
we
literally
see the
sit
same
there and
thing here.
say chicken does not catch fish because there's too many people that have caught fish on chicken. Uh, Several
Yep.
different ways. I've seen them just cast it out, fishing from the bank. I've seen people catching, drifting and dragging baits. Creole has
Yep.
caught his PB bumping with chicken. I mean, I see Justin's
can't deny it.
fishing fetish making in.
What's up, Justin?
Chris Houston, welcome. Well, one thing I want to get out there, I want to give a big congratulations on 1000K.
Absolutely.
We noticed you hit that. That's always a good milestone. You were close for a long time, and
Yeah.
you finally got over the hump with Chunky and Cookie. And
Yep. That's what did
so
it.
want to say congratulations there.
Thank
it's
you. I
a great,
appreciate that.
great milestone. See, there's Kevin, Palmetto Cats. His PB was on chicken too. And
There you go.
you just never know. Another thing, I want to take a little time. You've got this kids tournament. Day one is already over, but this Saturday there'll be the next day. So go ahead and shout that out if you will, and let people know, because I love watching these kids fish and stuff. It's great to see them out there. And for those of you who have not watched, these little kids are for real. You think kids? Some of these kids have larger PBs than most of the adults fishing.
Yeah, when we went through the live show last night, some of the kids had bigger PBs than I got, and man, that's a great feeling because they've been fishing. They've got somebody in their life, whether it's a mother, father, granddad, uncle, neighbor, whatever. Somebody is taking the time to take these kids out and let them enjoy the outdoors. And so, I mean, first of all, that is rewarding in itself when you come across those numbers. But they throwing some numbers out last night on the live stream. We had the kids on last night just to talk, just to kind of get them in front of the camera a little bit and get the nerve off maybe a little. And but yeah, they had some good stories, some good catches out there. So I'm looking forward to this Saturday. This last Saturday, so the winners of this first day, most fish went to Norm Ferguson's son, Bubba. Bubba Ferguson had six fish caught. Biggest fish went to Bryce Jacobs. He's a local here. I fish with his dad sometimes, and he had a 7.21 pound channel cat caught up at Sandusky Bay. And the smallest fish went to Lauren Murillo with a 0.46 pound channel cat. And that
was close.
That was closer than the big fish category.
Yeah.
Because Bubba also caught the one that was 0.51. So, but this Saturday, man, we've got a great lineup of folks coming in. Let's see, make sure I got my paper right here. The folks coming in this Saturday are going to be back at it and excited. Gabby Goose with Justin's Fishing Fetish is going to be out there fishing. Stan's granddaughters, Maddie May and Bailey Ray Smith. That's Little and Tiny Smith, the rest of us. They're going to be out there. Of course, you saw El Stan Perez last night with Cookie and Mason. We'll be out there hitting it as well. Kane and Payne from 3+1 Outdoors will be joining us. Blake and Gabe DeFore will be out there as well with their game plan. Skip Stewart and his two granddaughters, Haley and Lily, are going to be out there. They look like they were a little camera shy at first, but I think they warmed up okay.
Yeah.
And Dallas Meadows will be out fishing with Zach Murray. So little friendly competition between the River Warriors as Skip takes on Zach.
Yeah.
So that'll be fun. Skip will have his hands full. The girls aren't nearly as used to the water as his grandson Dallas is, but it's all for fun. I truly enjoyed Saturday, and I'm really pumped up about this Saturday. I can't wait.
Yeah, it's great to watch. I love watching it. I see Willow made it in here, Dan's Creations, Lyle, Catfish Weekly. Welcome, guys.
There's
it's
a
great
comment
to
there
watch.
Oh, sorry. There's a comment there by Chris. I think it's Yulston, if I'm saying it right. He said he asked a lot of questions. Enjoyed the kid. It was his questions were very good.
Yep.
Not saying questions aren't good, but you could tell he was really paying attention and into the tournament, and that made it really rewarding for myself, knowing that he was, because he's fairly new, at least to me and my channel. So seeing him really engaged in what was going on was nice. So Chris, thanks for your participation, and you guys, anybody's got questions during the events, let them roll.
Brian Forrest, welcome. Yeah, a lot of people, they don't realize that with the kids and stuff, and even when you're not with the kids, when you're out on that boat and you're out on a body of water and people are in there watching your live stream, they're trying to learn, guys. It's not just entertainment. They're paying attention. A lot of times you think people are not paying attention, but some of the people in chat, they remember where you caught your PB at, what you were fishing with, what time of day it was. Sometimes the people watching pay more attention than the anglers. And,
that's a fact.
It's nice to see that. Hey,
Yeah.
Dale, hey, Slip, welcome.
Yeah, there was an example of that last night. Elstan was talking about their PBs, and one of his subscribers knew the details of his PB that he didn't know. And that's engagement right there. I mean, you're talking about, from a YouTube standpoint, as far as analytics and all that, and engagement from your subscribers, you don't get much better than that. If somebody's paying that close attention to what you're saying and what you're doing.
Yep. Well, and this Saturday in that tournament, Skip, he's kind of got pressure on him because those girls have never caught a catfish. So now it's on him to put them on a catfish. And guys, that's how it started for everyone in here. That first fish, just your first blue, your first flathead, that's what starts the fire. That's the spark. So, now, not only is it up to these girls to compete in the tournament, but now Skip's got the pressure on them because these girls have never caught a catfish. And,
so
to be out on that boat with them and watch them catch their first catfish and stuff, guys, that is a special moment. And, it'll be one that them girls remember, and it will be one that Skip remembers,
Absolutely.
It's lifelong memories. I know your boat, the Muskrat.
Yeah.
Everybody loves the Muskrat. It has been a big success. Why don't you kind of give us a history of how the Muskrat come to be? Because you had other boats, but the Muskrat has kind of become the iconic boat of the YouTube fishing community. It's the boat,
Well, I don't know. That's first of all, that's really flattering. I know that the boat won the Golden Whiskers boat of the year, and it's super flattering. Got you 30-foot pontoon. Yeah, I did have a 30-foot pontoon. It was like a party barge. But be honest, COVID hit and things got kind of tough there. Wife was off work, I was off work, and had to make a sacrifice. And so the pontoon had to go. And as rough as that is, I'll pick another one up eventually because I do miss the pontoon. So does she.
Yeah. Janice has mentioned that in some of the live streams that, she kind of misses the pontoon. And
well, we ran the pontoon boat on the river, 30-foot pontoon boat. I would turn that thing sideways on the river and anchor it up sideways and fish off one side. 30-foot long sweep. I didn't need planer boards. I was already long enough. And it just got to be pretty tough. I like to fish in high current. I like to fish in all weather conditions, and you can't turn a 30-foot boat sideways in much current and hold. So I needed something. I wanted something a little bit different. I wanted a deep V. I've got some health issues that I want to stay safe down inside the boat. And
Yeah.
I shopped around. I picked this boat up at Lake Erie. I got it home. It wasn't the prettiest. My skill level isn't the greatest. And so I just decided, you know what? I'm just going to camouflage it because I could do that. That whole boat's done with rattle cans and homemade stencils. So I just taught myself how to make stencils and just went to town with some spray paint. And that's how it's done.
Turned out great.
Now the inside, I tore the whole thing down to the bare metal. I didn't realize it at the time, but my entire foam underneath was completely saturated with water. It was weighing me down and slowing me down. And so I ended up gutting it and taking all the foam out, putting brand new foam in the floor, redoing all new flooring, all new everything. And camo makes anything look good. That's right. That's right. And I've got asked before, and some of y'all have heard this story, but the name Muskrat came from my father-in-law. He's an old Vietnam veteran. I love him to death. We fish a lot together. He likes crappie fishing. He's caught some catfish with me, but he loves crappie fishing. And we used to get ready to take the boat out one day, and he said, "Where are you going? To the river?" I said, "Yep." He said, "You're like an old muskrat, man. You just running up and down the riverbank all the time." I said, "You're right." And so that's how we got the name. That's how the boat came along. I'm a not real fancy, low budget kind of guy, and so we went to town with spray paint and what little carpenter skills I have.
Yeah, the V, the deep bottom V, it's a lot easier to do certain things on it. I had a big pontoon boat. Mine wasn't quite as big as yours. It was 28 foot. And I took it out as soon as I got it, had them blow the pontoons full of styrofoam. That thing was a tank. You couldn't sink it because it was blown full of styrofoam. And I took all the benches and everything off of it. It was strictly a fishing boat. I had my fishing chairs on it and had pumps to where I could recirculate water for the live well and had the cleaning table and everything right there on the boat. But there's a lot of things like controlled drifting, using your trolling motor. That V bottom or a flat bottom boat, it's so much easier to handle and control than those big pontoon boats. To me, it's easier to fish off of them. Them pontoon boats catch a lot of wind. They catch a lot of waves. My wife wants me to get another one bad, but I have been discussing with her because I'm like you. I'd rather have a deep V or something because I've got more options out there. And she tells me then I better buy two boats because she likes the room on that pontoon boat. And
it's hard to beat.
They are great, especially if you've got family, friends, and kids or anything like that you take out, because you can spread out and you've got so much room. You can fish off the front, you can fish off the back, and you can fish all the way down the sides. And, most of them pontoons have that big top on them. So they're kind of hard to beat, but I still like the maneuverability of the smaller, like a deep V or something like that. And I see Jesse Outdoors Addiction made it in.
What's up,
Lee Reed, Uncle Lou.
Uncle Lou's in the house. What's up, buddy?
Man, I use Uncle Lou's hooks. We put them to work the other day. I love his circle hooks, especially his 10-aughts.
They are sharp.
Yeah, and what I like about them is they got that extra wider gap. So you can put a fat bluegill on that thing as live bait, and it does not take up the hook gap. And man, I've caught fish on that, and we've caught them from 2 pounds on up into 50 and 60 pounds using that same hook. And hey, J-Dog, welcome.
J-Dog, what's up, buddy? I got a date with J-Dog tomorrow.
I watched him when y'all did the 2 versus 2, you and Chad versus J-Dog and Norm, and
right.
That was kind of great thing to watch. I know a lot of people may not get into the 1 versus 1 or the 2 versus 2, but it's just friendly competition. These little tournaments and stuff that we have, it's great for the viewers to get to watch. The Blue Cats tournament, the Iron Cat tournaments. These stuff are a lot of fun to watch. See, Uncle Willie's 2 cents made it in.
That's a new one. Yeah, the live tournaments are a lot of fun. You like to see other people's like setups, and what I really like is when things are tough and see what they do different, and how their mind starts to work once things aren't working. So like what Plan C looks like is what really intrigues me halfway through the tournament or towards the end of the tournament, and see what they're doing.
Yeah.
To try to take the lead or hold the lead or whatever the case may be.
Well, that particular 2 versus 2, J-Dog and Norm, they moved a lot. Like they worked hard. They were trying to get on the fish. It's not like they just went up and sat in one spot. They were putting it in. There you go. Stan just put Uncle Lou's Facebook link up.
There you go.
In there. Thank you, Stan.
J-Dog says, I'm going to call out Roger and Chad when I get back from Florida. J-Dog's leaving for Florida this weekend, so looks like a call. We've actually already got a call out in the works right now from Creole Catfishing. Creole Catfishing has challenged the River Warriors to a duel. And to be fair to each of us, because how far apart we live, we're kind of letting the spawn do its thing. I don't want to fish against him if he's fighting the spawn, and he doesn't want to fish against me if I'm fighting the spawn. We want us to both be at our best. So we're kind of letting things cool down a little bit. Yeah. I'm going to put on a show for y'all.
Hey, Wild Turkey, welcome. Snake River, glad you made it. Yeah, I've been wanting to do one with Art, the 1 Ton Fishing Club. We've been trying to get a 1 versus 1 going there, but sometimes you got to get your schedules to line up, and scheduling can be an issue. And that's the same thing. You don't want to be out of spawn and another guy fighting the spawn. I mean, you want it to be fun. You want it to be a good competition. You want people to have fun. That's what it's about. Evan TV, welcome.
That's right.
I noticed you do a lot of fishing on the Ohio River.
Yep.
And, I've seen Zach on there, Zach Murray, Skip Stewart, and y'all out there. And, y'all work. You may be on the muskrat, you may be on Skip's boat, but y'all are on the move chasing those fish. Yeah. And how did you get started on that Ohio River like that? Because I know you kind of, I guess, mentored Skip into getting up there and build his confidence up on that river as well.
I'll be honest, my buddy Herb Everhart that I fish with a lot. He's not much for the spotlight. He's a simple guy, but I'll be honest. At one point, I was fishing Pay Lakes. I hate to admit it now, knowing what I know, but that's what I was doing. And we ended up becoming friends at work. And he said, "Man, if I got you into the river," he said, "you'd give up that Pay Lake stuff." And he took me out and started showing me the river. First few fish we caught, I was hooked. I was like, man, this is way better than doing the Pay Lake thing. And then once the conservation part set in and realized just how detrimental the Pay Lakes are to the trophy catfish in the waters, and then the ripple effect of reproduction and everything else, I sold all my stuff. And that's why the pontoon, a 30-foot pontoon is not ideal on a river. But I wanted to get off the Pay Lake scene and get into the river, and so that's what did it. But my buddy Herb is the one who taught me to read the river. He still doesn't use electronics really. I kind of went a step further and invested in electronics and taught myself how to use them.
Yep.
He was desperate to get me out of the Pay Lake, and and so it only took a couple trips to the river, and I was done.
Well, electronics sometimes can hinder you because people get caught up. They'll see fish on that fish finder, and then fish are down there, and they may anchor on them fish, and they may sit there for 2-3 hours trying to get them inactive fish to bite. You know, if you set up on a spot and you don't have your electronics and you're there 30 minutes and nothing bites, you're like, man, we need to move. We need to move spot. But when you can see them and you know they're down there, it kind of makes you want to stick it out a little bit longer. Big Slim, welcome. So the electronics can hinder you in some parts.
There comes a point in time where discipline, kind of outweighs things. We use the best electronics that we can afford. For me, that's Garmin. I run Garmin 93 SVs. On Skip's boat, and he runs the exact same units. So it's pretty good for us to be able to jump back and forth between boats and know the units. But Zach is a Humminbird guy, and he's got the Humminbird Mega imaging. I don't care what's out there. It is very hard to beat the Humminbird side imaging on Mega. And I'll be honest with you, it might sound like a stretch, but we've been in the boat, and he's called it and said, hey, there's a flathead laying right there behind that rock. We set up, and in 10 minutes, I caught said flathead behind the rock.
Yep.
The electronics, it can be amazing. I've took screenshots and showed people. He'll throw the cast net as the boat's moving forward, and I will see the cast net on the side imaging and say, yeah, you got some shad, looks like a couple big ones, and he'll pull the net up. It's crazy. It's crazy how good electronics have gotten. Yep. But you're right. You don't need we went out the other day. I went out with Herb. I just posted pictures earlier today. I think we had 8 or 9 fish. We had fast rising water. The water had come up like 5 or 6 feet overnight. I mean, so rising water is good. That fast, we usually don't do very good. And it wasn't a great day, but we still caught 8 or 9 decent fish. And his electronics on his boat don't work. He just bought that boat, and it's almost useless. And we just went old school, reading the river, using old school knowledge, and found fish and caught fish.
See, straight to the point, made it in. Art, One Ton Fishing Club. Hey, Art.
What's up,
Snags and Drags. Welcome, everyone.
I haven't seen that name in a while. I like Snags and Drags.
Yep. And that's what's nice, because river fishing and reservoir and lake fishing are completely different animals. You have to go about it different. So it's great that we have this YouTube platform to where we have different people fishing different styles of body of waters. Even the rivers, different rivers have different currents, different things. So it's nice to have a place we can go and share this knowledge and information and get it out there. Because I've never got to fish the big rivers, but I watch y'all fish these rivers. So when I go, I've got that input. I've got that knowledge. It gives me a baseline. And there's things that y'all do, like planer boards. You can use them in a river or a lake. There's different techniques that y'all use that are just as effective in a lake. So just because you tune into someone's live show, guys, and they're not doing the exact fishing you are, that does not mean you can't learn something from them. I watch a lot of guys in the UK even watch them fishing, seeing different rigs and how they tie their dropper rigs and stuff like that. And that's stuff that you can incorporate back and forth. And
that's how half of this new age of catfishing has evolved. Planer boards ain't new. They're new to catfishing, but they ain't new. They've been dragging planer boards for muskie and walleye for years. And many of the techniques and tricks that we use aren't new. We're not reinventing the wheel, but because we have the technology now to watch and see and learn, people are starting to take those other platforms and other uses for materials and turning them into tools that we can use in our community.
Yeah, Paul Frick, he's like, YouTube is my most valuable tool and it's free.
That
Yeah,
is,
guys, there's so much information out there. And I know from personal experience, like Roger, Two Stands, people like that, if you're out there and you have a question, if there's something you want to know, if you will shoot these guys a message,
Mhm.
they will get back to you and answer. When I first got into this and started doing stuff, I've spoke with Roger on Messenger and sent him questions and stuff, and it's really helpful. Uh, this YouTube fishing community is great, guys. Everyone is there to help. You don't have the negativity
Right.
that you do with a lot of the Facebook groups. We're not here to bash you. We're not here uh, to make ourselves superior. We're here to help you get on fish, to catch more fish and to catch bigger fish. And that's what it's all about, sharing the love, sharing the knowledge. And
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. There, there's not a bass fishing community out there that's showing people how to tie this rig and that rig,
no,
and like me going live. I'll tell you, here's where I'm at. Here's the background. I could show you. I love going live. I do not mind sharing my spots with anglers, but I was informed lately that some of the commercial guys are watching me, and when we pull big fish out, they want to know where they're at.
yeah,
So, kind of got me leery now how I want to approach that. I haven't quite decided how to get around that because I don't know which YouTube channels are the commercial guys. It's just a
yeah,
guess. So it makes it a little tough. It makes it hard to want to get out there and share the knowledge of where the fish are. But to anglers, absolutely.
yeah,
The more people, we talked before the show, and if there's something I could do to help somebody catch a fish, I am no pro. I am nobody really. Uh, I will share what I know and what has worked for me. It may not be the right answer. It may not be the wrong answer. But I could tell you if it's worked for me, and you could adapt it to what your style of fishing is or what your techniques are, and maybe you find your own. And a lot of that is what I've done. None of this I've learned on my own. I've got great influences from YouTube as well, Chris Souders and
yeah,
Doc Lang and Catfish Weekly, and there's plenty more. I'm sure I'm missing off the top of my head, but these are the guys that got me fired up and intrigued in the catfishing and learning and asking lots of questions. And just like he said a minute ago, I get asked questions. People will message me stuff about this and that, and if I don't know, I'll tell you I don't know. If I've done that technique or done it and it worked, I'll share it with you. But just about anybody in the catfish community, I'm looking down the list of people in chat, and you talk to Stan, you talk to Uncle Lou. Of course, he'll help you out in a bunch of different stuff. He gets into all kinds of cool stuff out there.
yeah,
But Justin, Hooks and Hammocks, J Dog. I mean, anybody in here would help you in any way, shape, or form that they can. And it's cool to know that you got all that information at your fingertips. All you got to do is ask.
See, Degabound, I don't know if I forgot you earlier. If I did, welcome. Noah Has is in here. Cody with 3+1. Theodore, welcome, guys. I don't deal with pay lakes, and we don't have the commercial fishers down here. So
Yeah.
I did not understand the struggle that y'all guys have and the multitude that y'all deal with on these rivers and these bodies of waters till I started watching. So all this stuff was new to me. I mean, without that knowledge being out there, if y'all guys would have never told us about these pay lakes and things going on, people in my part of the country would have never known anything about it. It's kind of covered up. We don't know. We'd never. But now with the YouTube and y'all getting it out, it's getting the word out, and now we understand more about what's going on. And you know, I sympathize with y'all because I know those pay lakes and those commercial fishermen, it's a money deal. And anytime the state is making money off of it and it's profitable to the state, it is a uphill battle to get anything done to change that because guys, face it, they're not going to do anything that takes any coin out of their pockets. You're going to have to raise enough problem and enough stink and enough publicity that the eyes of not just their state, but the other states around them start watching what they're doing. And it's that pressure that will start making things happen.
Well, I'll tell you, the very first step to doing anything about it is making catfish a game fish. It's not considered a game fish. You know, all the bass and crappie and stuff are regulated and closely guarded, creel limits, size limits, and all that stuff. Catfish just isn't at that degree. And so my challenge is to most people, when we talk about pay lakes and we know somebody that pay lakes or whatever, you know, a lot of everyone's first instinct is to growl, like, pay lakes bad, you're evil, stay out. You know, I did pay lakes, and until I realized what it did, and then I got out. So my challenge is for folks that if you've got folks that pay lake, or maybe they post something. I seen a post the other day. A guy posted a picture, and he was friends with a whole bunch of us that we didn't realize he pay laked. I usually don't add pay lakers, but he wasn't aware. So I sent him a message, you know, talked to him a little bit about conservation side, and they may or may not have done a thing. Who knows? But the thing is, you know, most people just don't understand the cause and effect of the long-term ripple that it causes taking these fish from the rivers. And, you know, instead of getting angry, try to help educate and help somebody understand. At least then, if they have an educated, you know, they can make an educated decision where they want to continue fishing the pay lakes or they don't.
Exactly.
But until they really understand the long-term effects of what's going on, it's kind of hard to really get angry with them if they just don't know. And so that's kind of my challenge to folks that are dealing with that. Those of you that don't have to deal with it, hats off, man. I wish I could say that, because nothing's more frustrating than getting pulled up on your spot and looking across the river and watch a guy drop 1,000 yards of hoop nets right next to you, or directly in front of you. If you're fishing the wrong side, if I'm fishing on Kentucky side of the river, I've had them pull up 100 feet ahead of me and drop 100-foot-long gill net across me. No fish can come downriver to me without going through their gill net. That is, what is happening at pay lakes. So, Dan, are you asking what a pay lake is? I don't want to explain it if you know, because most people know, but if you don't know, I'd be more than happy to try to explain what that is. And some of them just don't care. Yeah, stonefly, he's right. Some people know and understand what it is. They just don't care. Some of these pay lakes have big trophy pots. You know, guys are winning money. You know, like you said a minute ago, you know, if there's money involved, it's easy to turn and look the other way. So for a lot of guys, that is what it is.
Education is key. Education is key. The more people we can educate, that's the same thing with CPR. Down here, CPR is not practiced a lot. You have people that they keep and kill everything they catch. And if you're on a particular body of water, that is an expendable resource. You know, people don't understand, not all catfish are going to grow to reach that 40, 50, and 60-pound range. You'll have some fish that will never reach 20 pounds. And, you know, it's the genetics, guys. It's just like these deer farms or these elk deals where people pay to go hunt. If you're taking that genetics out of the water, it decimates a fishery. The area that I live in, we have 4 city lakes: Duncan Lake, Clear Creek, Fuquay, and Humphreys. These were phenomenal lakes at one time. Fuquay Lake was a championship bass lake for trophy bass. And when I say trophy bass, they're talking 11 pounds and bigger. And for years, they quit taking care of these lakes. They did not stock them anymore. They didn't take care of them. People were catching all these fish and taking them out. Well, it destroyed these fisheries. It run them down. And I had the privilege, new guys took over the lakes, and I had the privilege to sit down and talk with them and speak to them. And they got to noticing all their fish were all the same size. Nothing they did was increasing the size of their fish. And it's because that was their genetic pool. So now they finally started restocking these lakes, and they're bringing fish from other bodies of water to try and reintroduce those genetics into these lakes. And it's not, you didn't destroy the water overnight. It's not going to come back overnight.
That's the biggest thing right there is they can wipe a river out, and they can do it in a year. But I think Stan set it up there. It takes about 8 years for a blue cat to become to reach breeding size, and even then, at the very minimum size required. The bigger the catfish is, the healthier and stronger the eggs are that are laid, the better the odds of them making a survival rate. Look, when a catfish lays 100 to 150,000 eggs, only 2% of those eggs ever make it.
Yep.
Of the 2% that make it, 1% make it to adulthood. That's it. That's not 1% of 150,000. That's 1% of the 2% of 150,000. That's not very many fish. And every time we take a big fish out, we take that down even more. And so, Dan, it looks like everyone in chat pretty much covered it. But basically, what it is, these guys, big commercial guys, go into the pay lake or go into the river system. If you're familiar with like how a minnow trap works, they swim in, but they can't swim out. They have giant ones designed for catfish. They swim in, can't swim out. They take the fish out of the rivers. They take them to these little ponds and they drop them in there, and people pay money to go in and try to catch them. Problem is, those ponds aren't typically designed to hold those type of fish, and
they die.
They die, and 6 months, I think, is the life expectancy once they put them in there. So you could take a 20, 30-year-old fish. Once you take him out of the river, the clock starts ticking. He's got about 6 months to live, and unfortunately, he's gone. And these pay lakes, they pour copper sulfate and everything else in the water to help entice them into biting. Because let's face it, if your business is people catch big fish out of your pond and nobody's catching fish, you're not going to make any money. So these guys pour chemicals in the water to make them go crazy and try to bite. I've seen it. You watch any of these pay lake awareness pages, these fish come out, they got sores, they're skin and bones, they're just sickly looking fish, and it's just very hard to watch. It's if you love the fish like most of us do here, it's very hard to swallow.
It's heartbreaking.
Yeah, it is. It absolutely is.
I mean, we have, even in war, there are rules. The Geneva Convention and stuff set for rules of engagement. These fish, they're taking these fish out and putting them through some unusually cruel situations. And man, when you take that fish out, if you catch a 40-pound fish, okay, depending on what body of water you caught that fish from, the food source that is available to that fish, because there are many variables that affect how big a fish will get. You take that 40-pound fish out, that may be the biggest fish that has ever lived in those waters. And you just tuck that DNA out.
Yep.
So your children, your grandchildren, they're not going to be able to get to catch those 40-pound fish anymore. You know, we've got to be responsible. And I'm not against people catching fish to eat. I do it. When I want to eat fish, I will catch some of the eater fish and I will use them. But I am not going to take a 30 or a 40-pound fish and just go out there and eat it. You know, that fish, it does better to me swimming in that water.
Yeah.
It's going to reproduce. It's going to keep them genes going. And if everyone will practice that and put your bigger fish back, that lake is going to be known for bigger fish because you're going to have that big fish genetics. See, Becca made it in. Hey, Becca.
You're right, and that's actually that's new information that's just coming about as of recently about genetics and how, you know, just like big deer population, you know, you got a giant buck that has crazy antlers, and you know those genetics were bred into him. You know, there's a lot of science behind it.
Yeah.
You take that deer out of the herd, those genetics disappear. For those of us, you know, there's a lot of folks out there that deer hunt as well as fish.
Yep.
You know that you've got a deer in your herd that has a crazy genetic that's not producing good bucks. As long as he's still there, you're going to keep getting that over and over again. The same thing goes in the water. You know, if you got a big fish, it's got good genetics, he's going to get big. On average, you know, this like Country Boy said, there's a lot of variables, but on average, fish gain about 2 pounds a year. It gives you an idea about how old your fish are. Now, like you said, there's variables. There's better and slower places. That the place we fish up at Hoover is unreal. They're averaging 4.5 pounds a year up there.
Yeah,
it's just a great fishery. They're thriving, and you'll have places like that here and there. But on average, 2 pounds a year. So you catch a 40-pound fish, he's around 20 years old. And you see these pay lakes putting 50 and 60 and 70 and 80-pound fish into these lakes.
Yep.
That's tough to swallow. It's hard.
Hey, Jeremy Allen, welcome.
Jeremy, hello. Thanks for stopping in.
Yeah, a lot of people don't understand that not all fish get to that size. And depending on each body of water, it depends on how fast that fish is going to grow. Hey, David Hamilton, welcome. Down here, we have a abundant shad population. So, and we have muddy, murky water. The water is always stained in one of the reservoirs I fish. And that stained water, the fish seem to grow faster in it because I think it just flourishes with the bait fish and stuff. They've got more cover to hide in. I think the darker water reservoirs and stuff, the fish will grow faster there than they do in the lakes that are clear. I see Patriot James made it in. What did she say?
Man, I wish I could have been 40 pounds and 20 years old.
Yeah.
I don't think so. If I see a 20-year-old that only weighed 40 pounds, is to go in the hospital.
Yeah.
Hey, Patriot stopped in. James, thanks for stopping in, buddy.
Yeah, Patriot James, Josh Monick, thanks, guys. But that's the biggest deal is people don't understand this. You'd be surprised at the amount of people that think every fish has the ability to reach the same size. They don't understand about genetics. They don't understand how much food it takes for that fish to grow and put that weight on. They're just not educated. Nobody shares that.
Right.
Robert McKnight, welcome.
Yeah, there's a responsibility. Listen, you guys. Hey,
that's
Robert.
what we're here for, Robert. That's what we're wanting to do.
Those comments make staying up and chatting and making sure we're here every week. Comments like that make it worth it. So,
and the more we educate people, the more awareness we get. You know, just like y'all with the commercial fisheries and the pay lakes. We may not live in that state, but we can still, if you're in a state surrounding that, you can put enough pressure on your congressmen and your congresswomen and your Department of Wildlife officials that they're going to start putting pressure on the other state. And, you know, because it varies from state to state, even on the Ohio River. And that Ohio River, it runs through different states. There's different regulations all the way up and down that. I mean,
it's right here. One side of the river is Kentucky, and it's the Wild West there. The Kentucky has, I mean, it's like there's no rules. It's a free for all. And on our side of the river, it's completely different. The same river.
Yeah.
That bank, you got one rules, and this bank, you got the others.
And see, that's where
Stan says it best. That's why it's up to us to share as much as we know. And if we care about the fish and we care about the future of fish, you know, just like we started out the show talking about the kids and the kids being the future of the fishing. If we start getting them educated and understanding the long-term effects of fishing and get them falling in love with these big old fish, you know, they'll be the ones to go to bat for us when we're old and they're taking us out on their boats.
Yep.
And there's still fish to catch and still good time to be had because, you know, we took the time to invest in them while they were young.
Yeah. Well, and it's sad, but money talks.
It is.
On these local lakes, they started losing all their revenue. People quit going out there camping. You didn't have people buying the city permits to fish these lakes. And they were trying to figure out why, what's going on. People are not going to go and pay money to camp on a lake where they cannot catch fish. When they go out there, they're taking their kids or their grandchildren, stuff like that. They want them to be able to enjoy the outdoors. If they can drive 30 minutes from where you are and be on the fish, there's no reason for them to stay here. So now that they realize this and they've lost all this revenue, even the boat launch fees and stuff, they're like, we got to do something to fix this. But it had to get to a point to where it hurt their pocketbook. And then they were like, well, they're right. We got to do something about this. And, you know, they did start stocking the lakes again this year. Next year, they're going to restock them with catfish. So that it's going to be a slow process, but they're finally building these lakes and stuff back up. And, guys, on any body of water, it doesn't matter if it's a reservoir, if it's a pond, if it's a river, there are so many fish that inhabit that water. If you're taking those fish out and you're killing them, you are decimating that fish population. I don't care how good a fishery is, any fishery can be ruined if you do not take care of the resource. Wheeler Lake, Alabama. Wheeler Lake was a phenomenal fishery, and then it bottomed out because it was so heavily fished and stuff. Well, now they've started putting regulations and stuff in, and you'll notice that it's back on the rise. It's coming back up. Santee Cooper. Santee Cooper's the same way. It had a downfall. They realized it. They're like, we got to put the brakes on this. We got to fix it. And it's starting to come back. So it's never too late. You got to start somewhere, but you can outfish a resource. And that's what we got to do is protect our resources. There's Johnny, J&S Outdoors. Welcome, Johnny. Guys, if y'all have any questions that you would like to ask me or Roger, anything, go ahead and pop them up in chat. I will try and get all them addressed. If I miss your question and I don't get it answered, go ahead and ask it again, because that's what we're here for. We want to share this knowledge. We want to get it out to y'all, and we want y'all to be able to understand and to have this information.
Country boys got me in tears, man.
You know, hey, you always heard.
I was going to say,
you always heard growing up.
Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead.
What?
people would always say knowledge is power.
Yep.
Knowledge is not power. It's what you do with the knowledge that makes it powerful. You could have the cure to cancer. You could know how to cure every form of cancer on this planet. But unless you implement it and put it into play and start curing the cancer, that information is useless. It's what you do with that knowledge that makes it powerful. So we want to share that knowledge with every one of y'all in here because as a group, we become more powerful.
That's right. Kind of like what you were saying a minute ago about the resources and about how if it's not making money, what does it say? If it's not making if it doesn't make dollars, it doesn't make sense.
Yep.
All right. Well, here's the thing. When you think about big catfish and you got a week's vacation, and this goes for anybody in chat. Now I'll ask you, you got a week's vacation. Money's not an issue. Where are you going to go to catch fish? Where do you want to go on vacation to catch fish?
Tennessee River chain.
Tennessee River chain. That's why. A lot of fish.
Because, yep. And big numbers. Numbers of big fish.
Numbers of big fish. And so why is Tennessee so good? Well, Tennessee River chain, it's heavily protected. It's got a boatload of limitations on it. So for me, Stonefly says Ohio River. So for me, my thinking is, if we took care of our river and let these fish reach potential, the revenue would be there. Why couldn't the Ohio River be just as good as the Tennessee River? And people want to vacation and come spend their money and stay in hotels and eat the restaurants and stay on these riverside, cottages and things like that, like everyone wants to do on the Tennessee River. The Tennessee River is making bank. Watts Bar Lake, Kingston down there. Kingston's booming. Kingston's just a little tiny town, but the fishery down there is outstanding. So Kingston is making money because there's people wanting to come from all over to fish that water. And, any other body of water has the same potential if they just take care of the resource. And, that's, to me, that's like, man, yeah, you're making $1 today on selling that fish to a pay lake and you're getting some taxes back on the revenue generated by the pay lake. But if you would have left the fish in the lake, you might have generated 10 times as much by people wanting to vacation these areas, come fish these areas, stay in these hotels and eat these restaurants because the fishery is good. And to me, it's kind of frustrating that it's like nobody sees that or thinks that way. It's all about the money today.
It's exactly right, and it doesn't matter. The trip that everyone just took and went up to Mendota, the only reason they went up there to Mendota is it is known to hold them large channel cats. That was everyone's sole purpose. If those channel cat would have been 2 to 3 pounds, you would have not seen people driving hours, states away to go fish that water. That brings in revenue. The James River. The James River is on the upswing. It has not reached its peak. The Potomac River, and it's so upsetting to watch these guys, Chunky and all them. They fish, and the wildlife department there consider the blue cats an invasive species, and they want to kill them out and everything else. But your fish live in an ecosystem. There's balance. If you take the blue cats and stuff out, that's when you're going to start seeing stuff like the Asian carp take over because they have no predators. The blue cats up on that Potomac River, they're just now starting. That Potomac River will be a phenomenal fishery one of these days if they will protect those fish and quit trying to kill them.
Yep.
Eugene Brooks, welcome. And part of it is with our departments of resources, your fish and wildlife, guys, if you're going to put someone in a position over your fish and your wildlife and your game, make sure they have some experience. You got guys that have come out, they've never fished, they've never hunt. All they've ever done is read a textbook. They have no idea what's going on. You're going to have to reach out to these people and talk to them because if they don't have the knowledge, we need to make sure that it's available to them. And don't go in there all mad and screaming because you're not going to get anywhere. Sit down, have a calm, rational experience with these people, and you'd be surprised how much people will listen to you. See, Catfish Regulators made it in. Welcome, Aaron. But that's just like the guy that took over our lakes. I did not yell. I did not scream when I talked to him. I watched what they did to these lakes. Me and him have sat out there and for hours and even on the bodies of water. And I have talked to him. We have kept it calm. He's like, you know what? You're right. I see what you're saying now. Like bait fish. We've started bringing the bait fish and stuff to help increase the size of their fish in their lakes and stuff. And that's not just for me because I'm not going to keep any big fish. Anything over 10 pounds, I throw back in the water. I will not keep anything over 10 pounds. But by me being calm and talking to him and showing him respect, in return, he has respected my opinion. He's kept an open mind, and now he is willing to listen to what I say. My opinion and my voice is in his ear. He understands what it's about now. And hey, Epic made it in.
Oh, here we go. Yeah, and that kind of goes back to what we were saying just a few minutes ago about education. For those of us that have to deal with the commercial fishing and deal with the craziness that goes on, and especially the support to pay lakes, if you educate those folks and just at least give them the knowledge and let them make a decision from there, but don't just throw hate at them immediately. They may not understand or know what's going on, and if you talk to them like you got some sense, they might hear you out and change their ways. They may not, but at least you did your part, and your part is education, and that's how we get through this. Big money is bass and stripers. That's right. So if you take these catfish and make them game fish, things change.
Yep.
And until we do that, I mean, honestly, we can beat down every door there is, but until they're labeled game fish, there won't be anything done. It's sad, but that's the fact of the matter. Until they're classified as a game fish, they will not be put on that level. And catfishing, it's blown up. Guys like most of us have been doing it way before it was cool. But catfishing has blown up, and it's grown in popularity. Will it ever be bass fishing? Probably not. I'd like to see it. I'd love to see it, but it has definitely.
Deal with the bass fishing. You don't have the money invested as far as the tournaments. You got guys that just tournament fish. They throw a lot. There's not a catfish pro shop. It's Bass Pro Shop. They recognize where the money was at, but catfish has definitely come a long way, and it's given them a run for their money. You are starting to see more catfish tournaments come up. There is more of a spotlight put on catfishing. 10 years ago, look at the equipment catfishermen had. You did not have all the specialized rods and reels and hooks that are designated strictly to catfishing. Catfishing is coming on, and people are starting to take notice. Down here where I'm at in Oklahoma and stuff, they make more off the catfish than they do the bass and the hybrid and stuff like that. And, so they're taking care of them now and putting regulations on the catfish, the creel limits and stuff like that, because they realize without that fish there, you're going to lose a lot of revenue. And, a lot of times, guys, it's not exactly what you say that can upset somebody, it's how you say it.
My wife
So
tells me
when
that
you're
all the
talking
time.
to somebody, yeah, when you're talking to somebody, talk to them respectfully. Try and remember. And I know, like pay lakes and stuff, man, my chicken hairs on my neck stand up. Stuff like that seriously upsets me. But you have to keep a cool, calm composure and talk respectfully to get your point across. Uh,
Yep.
Guys, there's not a guy in here that's married that has never had an argument with his wife. If your wife comes at you and she
Okay.
is upset and she's yelling at you, you don't hear a word she's saying. You tend to block it out. Those people are going to do the same thing to you. If you go in there yelling and screaming or real sharp tongue, they're just going to tone you out. And you're not helping the matter, you're making it worse. So
Mhm.
always be respectful. Says catfish have always been looked down on for years as
Yeah.
bottom feeders. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
That image
definitely
is,
start.
yeah, I was going to say the same thing. That image has been changing. Some areas is changing faster than others.
Yes.
Um, but I mean, just look at catfish boats. I know Sea Arc is the first one everyone thinks of, but start looking at, Excel and like Smokercraft and Lund and all these other boat manufacturers that are now making tournament grade catfish specific boats. That
Yep.
not you go back
Sea
5
Arc.
years. You go back 5 years, and they weren't making. A lot of these companies weren't even thinking about it, and now there's a market for these big catfish rigs, and they're expensive. There's money there.
Yeah. Well, and used to back in the day, if you wanted to catch big catfish, you had to go and buy either an offshore rod, something that was made for the ocean, or a trolling rod, something that was designed for another fish, and incorporate it and just use it for catfishing. They were not catfish specific. Now you have rods, reels, line, tackle, baits, catfishing, the dip nets. It has boomed the rod holders. It has changed so much, and it's great because I've lived long enough. I've started seeing the change. I've seen the progression,
Mm-hmm.
and we are moving to a point to where, you know, when they make catfish a game fish, it's going to be a game changer. You're going to see a lot of fisheries come back to life. Better quality fish, better numbers of fish. It makes a huge difference. Hey, Brian B. catfishing in. He's one that fishes up there on the Potomac River with the Chunky and Elstan and Mark and Has and all them. Uh, and that Potomac River, it has a lot of good catfish in it.
I'm
Now,
ready to make a trip out there.
because of the pollution and stuff, you can't eat them. But I don't plan on eating the big catfish anyway. I mean,
No.
that's what they're there for to catch. That's the fun of it. And
Mm-hmm.
That's another thing where I was at. I did not realize the pollution level in our rivers in the United States until I started watching all the fishing channels on YouTube. This is stuff that flies under the radar, guys. You don't hear news sources out there preaching about the pollution. It's not in the newspapers. It's not on your local news. So when y'all share this out, on your channels, and people are in there from other areas of the United States, the only reason we know about this pollution, the pay lakes, the commercial fishermen, is by watching y'all and y'all sharing that information out. So you
Yep.
may not think that your opinion matters, but it does. You make a legacy. You leave something behind. Hey, Catfish and Pappy, Doc Lane. Okay, Roger learned the Doc Lane snail knot from Doc Lane. I learned the Doc Lang snell knot from Roger. The people that watch my channel are watching the Doc Lang snell knot from me. And they're going to show their friends and their friends. So years down the road, when they're talking catfishing and they're still doing knots, when we're not even alive any longer, they're going, where did you learn that? Well, that's the Doc Lang knot. And, you're making an endpoint. You make an impact, and you have a chance to positively impact the lives of thousands and thousands of people. And so do that responsibly. It makes a big difference.
Yeah. And you might not think it does. You might not think the little things you do today or tomorrow have an impact on somebody, but it definitely does and definitely can, especially when we're talking about kids.
Yep. That's like me. I've never met Doc Lang. I wouldn't know him if I've seen him. But now I use his knot, and people are going to be like, well, I see your knot from so-and-so.
That knot probably has a scientific name somewhere. Doc was the only one I've ever seen use it, and he ties it religiously, and it was good enough for him, and I started tying it, and I love that knot. I've never had a spring. You know what I'm talking about. You do the easy snell. Those knots spring back on you. You know, if you like me, hey, Frank, if you like me and you like to pre-tie your rigs and have everything set up and ready to go, some of them other knots spring loose on you and you just don't have any faith in it. But yeah,
I've never had the no knot snail fail me, but I've heard people talk about it when the fish get slack and stuff like that. And I was watching your show one night, and you did the Doc Lang snail. And hey, SF Outdoors, Frank, welcome. So I thought, man, I'm going to try this. And I will tell you that Doc Lang snail, you can cut your line. It is still not coming untied. You have to take a knife or a razor and cut that snail knot loose of that hook. It is not turning loose.
That's it right there. This is the one I tied on the show, still laying here. But you're right. You can cut this right here, and you still can't get the knot off. You can't pull it loose. You've got to take a knife and cut along the snail itself in order to get that off of there.
Yeah, and when you do that, you can cut that line, and you can't get it loose. It boosts that confidence in you, and you're like, man, if I can't get it undone, that fish isn't going to get it undone. And but I like the no knot snail. I've never had it fail me. Once I cinch it tight, it's tight. But there are other things out there, and that's like I tell people, keep an open mind, try different things. And I've got some of them that are snailed with the no knot snail, some of them that are snailed with the Doc Lang snail, and use what you have confidence in, guys. Confidence is your biggest deal. I hear people all the time. They're like, what's the best rod to get? What's the best reel? Guys, there's so many out on the market. All of them are great products. They have each one of them has a purpose. Paul Frick, well, I guess I'm going to learn how to tie that knot at work tomorrow. Yeah, if you do not know the Doc Lang snail, it is great.
There's a video on my channel with Doc tying it, and if that doesn't work, hit me or Country Boy up, and we will make a video just for you.
I posted a video about tackle. I showed all the knots, every knot I tie, like on my swivels and stuff. I use a modified improved clinch knot. I tie mine a little bit different than everyone else. I've got a little extra step in there that I do. But I show people that because, guys, if you go out there, we can give you the best bait, the best hooks, the best line, the best rods on the market. But if you do not know how to rig it, you don't know how to tie your knots, it's going to be heartbreaking. So
that's what I usually that's what I usually start asking people when they start asking me what rods should I use, what line should I use, what this. I ask them, what bait are you using? Because the catfish do not care about what boat you have, what rod and reel you have. They don't care how cool your shirt is that you have on. The only thing that the catfish cares about is your bait. That is it. After that, your skill comes into to play. You can have the best gear, but if you don't know how to handle a big fish or how to work a fish under different conditions, it doesn't matter. It's not going to work. So the first thing I tell people is, hey, how do you get your bait? How do you keep your bait the freshest? How do you keep it alive? What's your process? What does that look like?
Mm-hmm.
And then if they can start answering those questions, that they're doing the right steps to get their bait out there properly, then we can start talking about rods, reels, line, and all that other stuff. But until they get their bait right, it's pointless. It does no good to talk about any of it, because we've all seen ugly sticks.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
Snake River, that's not true. I've tied with even 100-pound leader line. If you're using mono, 100-pound mono, that Dock Lane snail, you can tie it on that 100-pound, and once it's cinched, I promise you, you can tow your truck with it. It is not going anywhere.
That's right. I use 80-pound slime line, leader line is what I'm using. So it works. I prefer the slime line. I use the Andy Monster line, Andy leader line, and it does okay too. It's a little stiff. The slime line is a little more limber. It seems to tie easier for me. So if you're not with Epic Catfish yet, what are you waiting for? There you go. There you go. I'm on here talking. I'm not here talking like I know what I'm talking about. And it's hard to do that in front of Tim Scott, knowing that he knows 100 times over. He'll forget more by the time he goes to bed tonight about fishing than I'll know the rest of my life. That's just how I feel.
That's why I can't imagine anybody not being subscribed to his channel.
Yeah.
Epic Tim Scott is one of those guys, when you get to talking to him, when the night's over and you have to go to bed, you have to let him go. People's got to work, but you still hate it. You just don't ever want the conversation to.
I've been there when them 1 and 2 o'clock in the morning chats keep rolling.
Yeah. Hey, Fishing the Dot, welcome.
Yeah, there you go. I use 80 and a 200, but mostly 80. So I don't even know. I don't even know if 200-pound would tie properly. That's like weed whacker string.
Well, the places
I know a lot of guys crimp. What's that?
Where he fishes them big barges and sunken barges that's got them rough edges, and there's lots of places, if he does not use that 200-pound line, that shock leader, those fish are gone. And some of the places, some places you have to horse that fish out. You cannot let them have run. You have to get them away from that boat or that dock or that bridge, and then you can play them once you get them around and away from that. But sometimes you have no choice but to horse them that first 5 to 10 foot.
Yeah. What I think a lot of misconception is when it comes to leader line is, hey, thanks, buddy. People ask, why in the world do you need 80 or 100-pound test? There is not even a 100-pound fish in here. That's not why I'm using a 100-pound test. I'm using a 100-pound test so when that fish runs me into some trees or runs across a rock, that diameter of that line, or that toughness of that line, can withstand some of that abrasion and still get that fish in the boat. Of course, I could use 30-pound leader line. But when I start getting banged in the rocks and fish, I fish heavy cover. Ask Skip, he's there with us. We throw right in the stuff. Once we got the old Pythagorean theorem figured out and our line counter reels dialed in, I'm throwing my stuff right in the pocket, in their face. And I will lose a lot of stuff, but I also want, I also have the ability to pull some big fish out. And I'm not sure who that is. Somebody's calling me this late. So yeah, for the abrasion resistance is why I go for the 80 and 100-pound test. And for Epic going to 200-pound test, he's not, well, he probably is trying to catch a 200-pound fish, but that's not his, I'm sure that's not what he's thinking. He's thinking when this fish takes off, and he bumps into this or that, I'm still going to get him. I'm still going to get him in the boat because he's got experience and skill. The gear he uses doesn't have to be top of the line because he's got skill and experience. He can be out there with Zebco 33s if he really wanted to because it could be done. It won't be easy, but it could be done. So, snail knot with the leader line also. Go ahead. You can answer that.
If you're talking about your hook, if you are using a circle hook, a snail knot is the only way to go. If you are not snailing that circle hook, man, you are seriously hindering yourself and you're taking the advantage of that circle hook away. So yes, always snail your hook. Now, if you're running up like I do to a barrel swivel or something, you do not have to tie the snail knot on the barrel swivel. You can get away with the improved clinch knot or different knots like that. But on the hook itself, definitely snail your hook. You will have a lot better hookup ratio. That Doc Lang snail, it also has the trigger action just like the no-knot snail does, guy. So you've got the best of both worlds. You don't have to worry about it coming loose. But definitely, especially with circle hooks, snail your hook. It makes a tremendous difference.
Absolutely. Snake River said he pulled a 200-pound plus fish in on the 50-pound slime line. And yeah, it doesn't. And we've all heard those stories. Matter of fact, there's a tournament out there now from poop. Oh, it's a finesse It's a finesse tournament. The lighter line you use, the more points you get for your fish. Daggone it. Somebody help me out. I can't remember off the top of my head. I can't remember who's doing that tournament. It's East Coast guys, but they're doing a tournament with, and so you can catch
the Fishing Magician.
Yes, that's who it is. Fishing Magician. Yep, you're right. Yeah, I couldn't think of it. But yeah, we've all heard those stories of somebody caught like 50-pound fish on 10-pound line. If you got skills, you can pull those fish in and land those fish, regardless of line strength. There you go, Becca. You could definitely do this. You could definitely do this. You just got to get out there and put your time in on the water. That's kind of like we were talking before the show about the S word. You know what the S word is? Spawn.
Yep.
And how most people are, shying away or, deciding not to go fishing at all, or, I'm not doing any good. Look, the fish don't all spawn at the exact same time. Even in the same lake, we were talking earlier, and even in the same lake, your north end of your lake may be warmer, and the fish may go spawning up on the north end of your lake a week or two before the south end. You can still fish the south end of the lake and catch fish. Guys, you don't know what the fish are going to do or what they ain't going to do unless you get out there and fish for them. The only reason I would ever decide not to fish during spawn would be for the conservation of the fish. But even then, we all know that flatheads are very GPS coordinated. You could pull them off a nest and you could take them 70 miles downriver and weigh them in at a tournament, and they will find their way back to that nest. It's been proven, it's been done, it's been seen.
Yeah.
They can do it. So the spawn, go fishing when you can because it's good for you.
Guys, I'm going to give you my opinion on the spawn. If you always take the spawn off or you quit fishing when the fishing is difficult, you're never going to overcome that. Every year when them fish spawn, or every year at that certain time of year when the fishing gets tough, you're going to struggle every single year. Put in the time, go ahead and fish that spawn. Fish when it's tough. Learn from it. Pattern it. Start figuring out where these fish are at, what they're doing on the spawn. If you do not take the initiative to struggle and fight it out and learn from it now, you're never going to get any better. Every year it's going to be the same thing. It's growing pains, guys. You have to get out there.
And the thing is, you can ask 10 different people what they do different in the spawn, and you'll get 10 different answers. I mean, I was reading, was it Catfish Now magazine came out yesterday or day before, and there was 2 different, which is funny. They put 2 different articles in the same magazine, and one fisherman said, I anchor on spots and fish live baits. I want the live baits to aggravate the fish. And make them instinctively strike to protect their eggs. Oh, that's a good strategy. The exact same newsletter, the other article they put on spawn, the guy says, when they go to spawn, I start drifting for fish. I want to cover more water and find active fish because not all the fish are going to spawn at the same time. So I'm just going to keep moving until I find. So my point is there's no right or wrong. There's no magic formula to catch fish on the spawn. You just got to be there. You got to put time on the water, and work out a strategy that seems to put fish in the boat for you or on the bank.
That's exactly right, Aaron. You got to go. You got to put your time in. You got to try it. And talking about the spawn, guys, I will say this. On certain bodies of water down here, I have noticed when the fish are spawning, dragging baits does seem to be more effective. It puts you on the fish, especially if you're doing controlled drifts with your trolling motor that keeps you on that ledge or that drop off or that mussel bed, wherever them fish are at. And guys, you got to be willing to change, adapt. I've been out there, and one day, man, they're hitting crawdads. That's what they're on. I'm catching 3 to 1. And then the next day you go out there, and it's the bluegill. They're hitting the live bluegill. Don't be afraid to try different baits. And I'm a big believer in never going to the lake with just one bait to use. I want to have different baits out there at different depths, different areas, so I can target. And it's like a search mission, guys. I'm throwing that out there. I'm trying to figure out what corridor these fish are traveling, what baits they're liking, because once I figure that puzzle out, then I know what to do to make my trip more productive.
Yep.
If you're out there fishing, you got 3 rods out and you're catching all your fish on one rod, there is a reason you're catching them fish on that one rod. Put the puzzle together.
Yep, that's it. Being open-minded and, like you said, using different baits. You don't even have, even if you're using one bait, use it several different ways. If you're not used to a flapper rig, learn a flapper rig. Fillet a fish if you have to. Chunk it smaller, chunk it bigger. Like me, I like to use the tenderloin, as I call it, out of my big shad. I like to tenderloin them out, remove the gut pocket, and just chunk up those nice bloody pieces. You'd be surprised just how much a different cut of your bait may make a difference. When we were fishing the other day, we was fishing a hole. I I could tell where the water was. It was a big back eddy, crazy turbulent water coming out of the dam. We were fishing right up by the dam. It's crazy, nasty stuff. We got the boat finally to sit still, and I had a spot that I knew I got to be able to get a bait in there. I got a live bluegill down there, and he sat down there for 20 minutes, and we was about ready to move. Our 30 minutes was almost up, and I pulled him back up, and I said, man, I could have swore they would have hit that. So I cut that bluegill into a flapper and threw him right back down in there cut, and I didn't even get to sit down, and we had a blue cat. And, you know, is it always – it ain't always going – could it be, you know, he just have possibly. But you got to try different things. If what you're working – if what you're doing ain't working, try something else. Try a different cut.
Yep.
Try a different location. Try a different presentation. I've showed you guys before. I have a whole bag of rigs already tied at all times. They're short. There's some long. Some have floats. Some don't have floats. So I have so many variety of different things that I will go through those different rigs and different things on my rods until I find a pattern. And once I find something that starts working, then I just key in on that and just try to perfect it. But having an open mind will help, you know, with that mission the entire time.
Yeah, a perfect example. Yesterday, I took my wife out fishing. We get out there, and I've got live bluegill and I've got cut bluegill. Every piece of cut bluegill, they were biting. We fished there for about 6 hours. They never touched that live bluegill. He was still out there swimming around. I turned him loose when we left. He got to live another day. It was just certain times the fish will prefer certain things, size of bait, types of bait, little things like that make a difference, guys. Johnny, on a smaller lake, if the water is shallower, it probably did heat up quicker, which means the spawn kicked in quicker because they like that water temperature. So that is a good assumption. But I will tell you, I know I'm quite a bit farther south than you are. You're kind of up in the northeastern part of Oklahoma on Kerr. But down here, they are starting to come off the beds. The catfish are the bites getting more aggressive. More fish are moving. They're even hitting the shallow water again. And some of the fish that we were catching yesterday, you can see the battle scars from the spawn, the bite marks and the scrapes and the scratches. So that is a good assumption.
Yeah, this question here is a good one. Every Friday we've had a 4.5 foot catfish. First of all, that's a big catfish. Swim on the surface. Can anyone explain? It's hard to tell. I guess it'd be hard for me to. Yeah, there's so many variables of that. You know, it could be an unhealthy fish. Could have, you know, busted swim bladder. Could be jacked up on this fish. You can't go down. Normally they won't live that long. If you've seen it every Friday for the last 4 Fridays, that's kind of crazy. So
about 2 foot of water. A lot of the times I've seen them up there in the shallow water, guys, and I have seen these catfish up there, and they'll get up in the grass beds and stuff, and they look like a shark. They'll get so shallow, their dorsal fin is sticking out of the water. And guys, a lot of the times they're up there and they're feeding. You may not have the right bait, what they're looking for, but a lot of times they'll come up in there. You know, these local lakes. I was talking to Epic.
I was going to ask if he has cicadas. I can't remember exactly where he's located at. Cicadas being on top of the water, mayflies, mayfly hatch on top of the water. These things could possibly, catawba worms right now are coming out. Some of these things could cause these fish to be on top of the water feeding, depending on your region and whatnot.
Yeah, I've seen them a lot down here, especially when the water's high. if you've had a raise in the water has come up. They'll be up in the grass and stuff, eating bugs and crustaceans, crawdads, stuff like that. It's kind of frustrating because a lot of times you can see them, but you can't get them to bite the hook. But you can watch them.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to sight fish them.
Yeah. Well, catfish are not the easiest to sight fish.
Right.
If you can get, you kind of have to be in front of the fish where he's going and get the bait presented to him into a way to where he's going to hit it. Let's see. I've seen fish jump up and grab them, or maybe the fish is tanning. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think they're worried about that.
Hey, wandering fisherman, welcome. Here's.
Yeah, that was kind of my thoughts on it. I'd see a flathead up cruising surfaces like that, but not generally. Just because of the way the blue cat's head is shaped, he's not shaped to attack from below like a flathead is. A flathead is more closely related to a largemouth bass than most of the catfish family because of his huge underbite on his jaw. He's designed to hunt, ambush, and attack from below. So a flathead being at the surface of the water, picking things off the surface, makes a lot more sense than a blue cat, just by the design of the blue cat's head and face. He's not designed to eat like that or to hunt like that. And I've got a couple bass fishing buddies that tell me a couple of these lakes around here. He said, "Man, you wouldn't believe the size of flathead I saw yesterday in 2 foot of water."
Yep.
Yeah. He said he was bass fishing. He said, I looked down and he said, there was a giant flathead just went right underneath my boat. He said, it was huge. And I was like in a foot or 2 of water. I said, yeah. Where are them bluegills at right now? Them bluegills are spawning.
Yep.
They're up in the shallows. So guess who else is up in the shallows looking for food?
Yep. The blues are following them too, because that's where I've been catching a lot of them at. And I've seen them blues in so shallow a water. Like I say, their dorsal fin is sticking out, and they are feeding up in there. I have been lucky enough to hook into them when they're up there shallow like that. When they come up in that grass feeding, I like to fish it. A lot of people won't fish it because you get snagged up in the root beds of the weeds and stuff. But those fish are on the prowl, and if you leave your bait there, they're going down through there, and when they find it, they will hit it. And shallow water fish, when they hit and they set that hook, that tail slap, they come up out of the water. You can see that fish roll. It is an adrenaline rush. Shallow water is probably my favorite.
Yeah, and like you said, when you see those fish up in the shallow, they're actively feeding. There's no reason. Yeah. They don't want to be in that shallow water. They don't want their backs out of the water. They don't want to be there, but they need to be there. This is where their need overwhelms their want, and they need to feed. They need to be there to get the food, and so they will push themselves to the limit to get exactly what they need, and that's how you end up with these fish, like he's saying, with their fins sticking up out of the water because they are actively feeding. That is like he said, it is a fantastic time to catch a fish when you catch them in a foot of water.
Yeah. And you can tell it kind of ruins the surprise, because when you hear it and you see that big old tail come up out of the water, if you've caught enough catfish, when you see that tail, 10, 12 inches across come up out of the water, you've got a good fish. And man, it's such a blast. And I think that the shallow water, they always seem to fight harder. They can't dive down, so they're going to go side to side. They're going to hit the top of that water. They're going to roll. They're going to tail slap.
It's a memory for sure.
Yeah, they're really.
Regulator says they're like a bull shark swimming. That's right.
Yeah. And having a variety of baits have saved a lot of fishing trips. Yeah.
Right. Hey, Jerry, how'd you end up doing out there? I was watching Jerry live a little while ago, but I popped over to see check in on Jane Smith, and then of course we kind of got started early over here. We was backstage talking for a little bit.
Yeah. Guys, don't be afraid to try different things.
Yeah.
You know, just because and don't get tunnel vision. Guys go out and they'll catch a fish on a spot and say they catch a 30-pounder there 20 years ago. They're still fishing that same spot every day. Well, I caught a 30-pounder here 20 years ago. What have you caught lately? Use the most recent information, because especially on rivers or creeks, things that have moving current, that water comes up and down and fluctuates. Every time that river rises or falls and it's got that current going through there, there's erosion. That river is constantly changing. You know, you got to pay attention to stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah, you want to recreate conditions and scenarios, not locations. We're trying to get in the habit of, you know, I know like with Skip and I, you know, there's 60, 65 pounders that he caught out of the High River. In our area, that's top potential for this pool. I mean,
yeah,
you know, some people don't believe that we caught a 65 pounder and a 60 pounder out of the same pool because they just don't get that big anymore. Back to commercial fishing, but Skip and I, you know, when we caught those fish, we went to the Weather Channel and we pulled up exactly what the conditions were right now, the barometer, the wind speed, the temperature, all that. We took a screenshot of that. Then we also wrote in the water temperature, because that's not on there. We wrote in the water temperature and a couple other details, and we put that all on that snapshot that he keeps with that fish. And you know, those are things that you want to recreate those conditions. When those conditions start reoccurring, what was you doing? How was you targeting fish? Is that fish going to be back in that same spot we caught him at? No. No, probably not. Especially a blue cat. Flathead, maybe. But plan on having bluegill, shad, skipjack, and an East chicken for the girls Saturday. Well, Skip, I'll tell you right now, make sure you have plenty chicken. Because I had shad, bluegill, and everything the other day when I went up there, and I used 2 pounds of chicken by noon. That's just all there was to it. I was using small chunks, and Skip is the king of small chunks.
LG Bass, that's exactly why he's there.
Yep.
That's exactly what he's up there doing.
Catch blue. Yep. There you go. There you go, Tom. You know, he's there because the bluegills are there. You guys know the bluegills are there. You think you know where the fish are? They know where the fish are.
Yep. And, you know, pay attention, guys. If you go out somewhere and you're seeing fish feeding in an area and you don't understand why they're there, start thinking. There is something there that makes that fish go there. They're not doing it for their health. There's always a method to the madness. If you can figure out, I always say it's like putting the pieces of a puzzle together. You know, when you start out with the jigsaw, all you got's the picture on the box to go by. And you got to start putting piece by piece in there until it all comes together. Same thing with fishing. It's a puzzle. Take each piece of the puzzle, start putting it together. Hey, Robert Andrews, you definitely got to pay attention.
That comment there by Stan is awesome.
What's going on?
Yeah. All they wanted was live bluegill, and they had everything. And that goes back to that. You know, they had cut bluegill, but the fish wanted live bluegill, and you just never know. You know, I wish it was easy to say. We're the same way. The fish are like us. We go to the refrigerator. We don't want the same thing every time we go. There's different things. You've been out in the sun all day. It's hot. You go to the refrigerator. You don't want to heat up some a big old crock pot or chili or something. You want a cold piece of watermelon. I mean, they're just kind of a strange analogy, but the fish don't always want the same thing. And so it's good to have a variety. Unless you've got a lot of faith in what you're taking, you take a variety.
That's where people fail the most when they're fishing is they're like, I do not want to fish there, or I do not want to fish with that bait. It does not matter what you want. It matters what the fish want. If you are not willing to fish where the fish are and use the bait that the fish are wanting to eat, you're never going to have consistent success. You've got to listen to the fish, and you got to be willing to do things that you may not necessarily do. Well, I don't want to throw in there because I don't want to lose my sinker or a hook. Well, if you don't want that fish bad enough, because there are times that fish is not coming out of that cover. He's not. You're going to have to throw in there to him, or you're going home empty-handed. So, one day a week fishing, welcome.
I like that name, by the way.
You got to be able to give them what they want, and you got to be able to fish where the fish are. They do not come to us. Boat fishing, you've kind of got an advantage because you can move. You have a lot more reason to get up and move. You can access spots that the people from the bank can't. So, guys, if you're bank fishing, do your research. Time on the water is going to be your friend because you're not going to be able to move around as much as the guys on the boats. And you're not taking the bait to the fish. You're trying to make the fish come to your bait. So that's when you've got to know your area, know the fish are there, and focus your time there. Don't waste it fishing dead water.
And my dog's trying to tell me she got to go.
Note to self, next time I'm fishing with LG and regulators on Friday night. Yeah, that's a good idea, Stan.
Yeah, I saw that comment. You better write that down.
Yeah.
Time on the water will people ask me and Skip and Zach, what are we doing different? Guys that fish locally is like, man, how do you guys continuously put so many fish in a boat? And like, do you realize how much we fish? We fish a lot. That's all there is to it. We fish a lot, and each time you go out, you learn something. You put it in the bank, and the more time you got bait in the water, the better your odds of catching fish are. We just have our bait in the water more than a lot of other people can, and we're very fortunate and blessed to do that. But at the end of the day, that's all it is. It's time on the water.
Johnny, J&S Outdoors, that is exactly right, and that is the hardest thing to get people to understand. When you talk to somebody, you will know whether they're passionate about fishing or not. Because if you mention throwing your bait somewhere, tell them, guys, you got to fish here. And they're like, well, I don't want to throw my bait there. Well, you don't want to catch that fish. There's nothing else I can do to help you. You can't 911 and call that fish out of there. You're going to have to go to them. And if you're not willing to do that, you're wasting time.
My advice to somebody who's wanting to fish structure and fish it heavily and want to better their odds of getting their stuff back is to use a dropper, a light line dropper for your sinker. So a 3-way rig is what we like to use a lot. I'll use a dropper 12 to 18 inches. And, my main line's 30 to 40 pounds. My leader line's 80 pounds. And my dropper is 17 pounds. If that sinker gets hung up, it's going to pop off. and hopefully I'll get the rest of my stuff back, especially if there's a fish on it. If there's a fish on there, that sinker gets hung up and it's got 80 pound. It's, a Santee style rig. When it's got the sinker right on the line, you got to break that, 40 pound main line to get that sinker out. Well, if you use the dropper, you'll break your 17 pound line, bring your rig and your fish back to the boat, and that's not a foolproof thing. But when you're fishing, especially rocks, trees help too, but fishing rocks, especially that dropper on that 3-way will save you a lot.
One thing I've learned, the drifting weights from Jimmy Santee drifters. If you use them in the rocks and the timber, the down trees and stuff, your sinker snags up a lot less. So that's something I figured out and I started implementing, because even though I'm fishing from the bank, I can bring that drifting weight over them obstacles instead of getting caught in the cracks and stuff. It will save you lots of tackle, and you're still able to get to where those fish are. Skip, he's like, sometimes we get skunked too.
That's 100%.
Skip, that happens to everybody, but sometimes when you get skunked, it can be your best experience on the water because you're paying more attention to everything. What is different today than it was yesterday? You're thinking constantly. You're trying to put the pieces of the puzzle together, and you're trying to figure it out. And to me, if you go out there and it doesn't matter what you throw out there, you can throw any bait out there and you're just bam, bam, 40 fish, just nailing it. Doesn't matter. They're hitting everything you throw at them. To me, don't get me wrong, that's fun fishing. But when you go out there and it's a hard bite and you're struggling, if I catch 3 fish on a tough day of fishing where I've had to move around, I've had to change spots, change baits, change rigs, I've had to put every little piece of the puzzle together to get those 3 fish. Those 3 fish are more meaningful to me than those 40. Because I really had to put in the work for those fish. It was not easy.
Yeah.
See, Brad Caudell made it in. Hey, Brad.
What's up, Brad? Yeah, right there. Sometimes you do want them to stick and to hold up where you want them to. But so I'm not sure, like the 3-way would work in that situation. Maybe it will. It'll still stick there in the clay. But I guess if you're fishing clay bank, you're not worried so much about the hang-ups. But like Stan said there, I learned more on my skunk days.
Yeah. Don't put so much pressure on you. Don't believe all the hype. I promise you, there is nobody that goes out 100% of the time and puts fish in the boat or on the bank 100% of the time. There's days you may go out there and it's just magic. The stars align. You can do no wrong. I mean, the fish basically jump in the boat for you. And there's days you're going to go out there and you're going to struggle to catch fish. And we all have those days when we go out there and you may spend 10 to 12 hours on the water and never catch a fish. But that doesn't mean give up. Start asking what's going on. Use that information.
That's what we do. When we go home after a bad trip, we start asking all the questions. We ask each other. We're on a group chat and we say, man, what could we have done different today? Well, we did this and we did this. We didn't do that. 99% of the time, we go home, we're like, we did everything we could. We tried every technique. We tried every bait. We tried everything. And, we're usually happy with the results that we tried.
It's great, too, that you have fishing buddies like Zach and Skip, and you have a fishing community you can reach out to. And you're like, guys, this is what was going on. This is what we experienced. what do you think we could have done different? Why do you think we had this result? You
Mm-hmm.
know, and you get a gathered knowledge from everybody, and you know, so it's not just one mind. You may have 20 minds working on the same thing, and everyone's trying to figure it out. So it helps a lot. You
It
know,
seems to
but
be
everybody has them, guys.
seems like we usually get skunked on tournament day.
Yeah,
But see, the thing is, even on tournament day, we asked. We're talking to the other anglers about what did or didn't work for them either. And I can tell you, on the days we've been skunked, the catches were very low. Last tournament we was in, 4 fish were caught. 3 flatheads were caught by one guy, and 1 blue was caught by another guy, and that was all the fish caught. And it was only a 7 or 8 boat tournament. But that's 7 or 8 boats, 2 people, 3 people per boat, all trying to catch a fish, and only 4 fish were caught the entire day.
yeah.
It was just tough.
It's kind of sad to say, but the old saying, "Misery loves company."
Yeah.
We're out there struggling and we're having a hard time, and we're not on the fish. When we get back to the boat dock and we see the other, what'd y'all do? Do y'all have any luck? And if they're like, "Man, we tore them up," you're like, "Man, I just sucked, didn't do nothing." But if they're like, "No, man, we were struggling, we had a hard time," it automatically boosts their confidence back up there,
Yeah.
because well, I was not the only person struggling.
Yeah. Yeah. I've been on both sides of that fence. I've been the guy that did well, and I've been the guy that got skunked. But don't be afraid to ask questions. 9 times out of 10, those guys they might not give you their spot, which is good. You don't want their spot. You want to know what worked, the depth, bait, structure. Those are the things you should ask. Don't ever try to ask somebody, "Well, where did you catch them? Where was you at?" You're not going to get much information out of them. If you ask smart questions, what was the depths, or what were the baits? What type of structure, wood, points, drop offs, ledges, those are the questions that become relevant, and then you can recreate them.
Johnny, that's an excellent idea. Guys, you kind of have to listen to people and figure out what's fact and what's fiction when you're talking fishing to people. I've had guys go out there and I'll be pulling up and they're like, "Man, we've been fishing here all day. We didn't catch nothing. There's no fish here." And no sooner get a rod out, I can't even get my other rods out, and they start going down. Just because somebody else did not have luck in that spot, you don't know what bait they were using, how far they were casting out, what depth of water they were fishing. Don't be afraid to go behind people. I've had people sitting right next to me, and my wife gets mad at me, and I'll be catching fish, and nobody else is catching fish. And they're using the exact same bait I am, but I'm throwing in different areas. I'm up in the sticks. I'm in the brush. And they're like, "Well, I don't want to throw in there." Well, I can't help you because that's where the fish are at. And, I had a guy, I would wade out in the water and I'd get waist deep in the water. And then I would throw my lines out. And he sat there and he watched me and he's like, "Man, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that." And after I caught probably 8 or 10 fish, he was ready to start walking out in that water and throw his rod out because he figured out, if I don't do this, I'm not getting anything. And it wasn't that I was fishing a different spot than him. I was just wading out and I was hitting deeper water. I was able to get closer to the channel than he was. So little things like that, guys, make a big difference. And just because you can go there and you can fish and you're not getting bites, you can't just say they're not biting. Try different depths of water. You got to fish it and fish it hard. Give it a fair chance. And if you know there's fish in that area, man, put in the time. You're doing something. There's a piece of the puzzle missing, but they will still be there.
So here's something to think about. If you don't watch Chris Souders yet, you should. He's a great teacher.
Yes.
Chris Souders about 2 weeks ago put a live stream out. He was at Sandusky Bay. Sandusky Bay is kind of like Mendota. It is a fantastic channel cat fishery. There's giant channel cats. There's plenty of channel cats. Skip. I'm sorry. I seen Skip's name. Chris Souders was live. He was using small pieces of shad, and he couldn't keep 3 rods in the water no matter what he did. Then Chris Souders decided he wanted to catch big channel cats. He wanted to see if he can catch some monster channel cats to show. Chris decided to use much bigger pieces of bait. He didn't get a bite. He didn't catch a fish for 10, 15 minutes. Chris reeled in his first pole, cut the shad in half that he had, threw it back out. He never made it to the second pole. The first pole was down, and it was on again. Bait size made that big difference. You could be starting out with that big piece of bait that Chris was fishing with that got no action. And just by cutting down his bait, it completely night and day difference of catching fish, not catching fish. And you just want to keep that in the back of your mind. If you start out and you're fishing a spot and you're not catching fish, change something, do something different, and then move on, or at least put something different on each of your rods to make sure you're covered. But it was just a black and white, great example of just how picky sometimes these fish can be. And these weren't giant shad to begin with. These were 6-8 inch shad, and he was cutting, maybe a third off the back, and he was using the 2/3 of the fish. Fish wouldn't touch it. And these were plenty big enough channel cats. These were big channel cats. Didn't want anything to do with it. He cut it down smaller, using 1/3 of the fish instead of 2/3 of the fish, and it was night and day difference. And we've seen it a billion times, but on that live stream, it is so black and white. You can't deny it. It should stick with you for a while. So do yourself a favor and watch that. I think it's a 40-minute live stream. It's actually, he's in a pouring rain and having a blast. He sounds like, just about like any of us catching a bunch of fish, giggling like little school kids.
Thanks for the link, Stan.
Yeah, Stan, thank you.
And that's funny. People think we've got it in our heads, you got to have big bait for big fish, but there are times of the year when you will catch a big fish on a small bait. And I've seen times when the small fish are aggressive and a 5-pound blue will come out and destroy your 6 or 8 inch bluegill. And, you got to pay attention to what the fish are doing and what they want. It's a big difference.
Yeah. Tim says he's seen that 1,000 times with channel cats. I don't know if that's, channel cats being that finicky. I don't know if that rolls through the rest of the fish families as well, but it was something to remember. And that's why I felt it was worthwhile to share. It was amazing. It was like he turned the lights off, no fish, nothing going on. 10 minutes. We're like, what happened? He said, well, I'm going to have to change the bait back. They didn't want that. So he came back in and put it right back out, and boom, fish. And then it just started all over like he was fishing before he started big bait. It was good stuff.
And they work like that. Guys, I appreciate everybody coming in. Roger, I love having you on. I've had you on here for about 2 hours. I know your dog is ready to go outside.
I got to pee just as bad as she does, but apparently I can hold it better than her. She ain't barking at me yet. Yeah.
Yeah.
There you go. If you guys go back and watch that live stream that Skip caught that 65-pounder and we caught him live, we went back and watched that video. It's like the 5-hour mark on that stream. We watched him cast the bait out. It was bait that was already out. It had been out for half an hour. We moved up and saw some fish and decided, hey, let's try this spot for a few minutes. And threw a quarter-size chunk of shad that had already been in the water for half an hour. He should have replaced it. And that catches a 65-pound blue cat. it was the size of a quarter. So full
Yeah,
moon out.
Dale, that moon phase is definitely bright out there. We ran into that the other day. I really didn't even need to put the glow sticks on the rods because you could see it when you're out there at 11 o'clock at night and you can still see your shadow on the ground, you know.
Dale, are you having any luck? You got the boat out there?
I'm not a fan of fishing on the full moon. I like being able to see, but it doesn't seem like I catch as many fish on the full moon.
Skip said it still had blood coming out of
it. Yeah.
Yeah. You know, especially when we do those cuts, like I said, on the tenderloins of the big shad, man, those things, some of those will bleed for a long time, you know.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I appreciate everybody. And Roger, I'd love to have you on anytime you want. It's great talking with you. I love our fishing family. I love talking to anybody. If anybody in chat would like to be a guest on the show, go ahead and email me at countryboycatfishing@gmail. If you have any questions, you can comment on one of my videos, email me, look me up on Facebook. I'm more than happy to talk and answer questions. And everyone fishing, don't forget Saturday we got the kids tournament. Want to wish all them kid anglers good luck. Guys,
here in chat,
if you have time Saturday, yep.
2 stands in
if chat, you have time,
outdoors, they're both in the tournament.
Yep. If you have time to watch that kids tournament, I promise you will not regret it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's great to see all these young kids out fishing. You know, let's show them their support. Let's get behind them, guys. I can't say enough for Roger putting this together for these kids. And guys, if y'all have,
I can't wait to do another one.
Yeah, if y'all have any questions, feel free to hit us up. I know Roger answers questions. I've talked to Roger many times on Messenger and Facebook. So don't be afraid, guys. The only stupid question is the one you don't ask, because that's how we all learn. But all right, guys, we're going to end this. And I appreciate everybody. Everyone have a great night. And like I say, if you'd like to be a guest or have any questions, feel free to email me. Love y'all, guys. Catch you on the next one.
Thanks for having me.